So do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
I have an Android phone, and I love it. I used to be with an iPhone, and I'm not going back.
Cinderella story. Out of nowhere, former groundskeepers about to be the Masters champions. The Nice Guys on Business podcast. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community, welcome back. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, it is Mr. Doug Sandler. Happy Monday!
Wow, you are really happy. I mean, this is like extra happy.
You know, it's funny. People talk about it all the time. Oh my God, finally it's Friday. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm not going to say I don't look forward to the weekend, but I don't dread the week,
So what you're saying is you really just don't want to leave the grind behind. You're okay with the grind.
Well, yeah. And I think I'm in the minority though, because our guest today, Justin Gesso, has written a great book called Leave the Grind Behind for all of those of you who do on Sunday think to yourself, oh my God, I got to go back to my job on Monday. I hate it. You don't have to go back to your job on Monday. I mean, you can leave the grind behind.
So the interesting part about Justin, and Justin was a great guest on the show, and I really enjoyed interviewing him, and he did write a book called Leave the Grind Behind. But he basically took a crowbar and made his way through the entire audition process to get on the show. So he reached out to me in early September. He's like, hey, I listened to the show. I'm a guest of the show. I got a book coming out. would be a great guest on your show. You really need to have me back on the show. Have me on the show. So I wrote back to him, and then I started asking. Of course, I wasn't being a dick, but I just wanted to how many people do reach out to us every week that say, I got a book, I got this, I got that, I want to come on the show. But when I ask them a couple of questions like, what is your social media channel? What do your channels look like? What's your network look like? How do you reach out to your guests on email, on your mail list? Do you do it through email? How do you reach out to your list? I mean, do you have a regular newsletter? Every question that I asked him, he was like, yeah, man, I got that. I got a great network. I'm very engaged with my network. I have an email campaign that I put people through a funnel. I'm very active on social media. I'll do a video for you and the Nice Guy community. And you know what? He did. So he really did a very, very good job of engaging the Nice Guy community when he first asked to be on the show. And he understands the value and the importance of really enjoying your job. And part of why I really enjoyed having him on the show was because he was so engaged and he was so involved in making sure that he did his job as a guest. And I can't tell you how many guests actually fall down on that. We encourage people to reach out, but very rare do I get people as active as Justin was. So he earned his spot on the show, I would say.
Well, what I love about Justin is, all of that stuff is good. And I would think that most people who were, more seasoned authors or entrepreneurs or, social media people would have all that. But Justin actually listens to the show. He's not just some guy reaching out looking for attention to get more people to listen to him. I love that.
No, I agree. So a great interview with Justin today. Check it out. It's called Leave the Grind Behind, his book. We'll make sure we put all of the what the hell are they called? Why am I blind? I can't even think. Monday morning is really challenging for me.
Yeah, well, it's not. Maybe you
not
need
Monday
to leave
morning
the
for
grind
every. Yeah, no, I don't have a grind.
Oh,
well,
right.
I have too many jobs. Do you have too many jobs?
No, I like all my jobs, so I'm good with it. I mean, I have a lot, but I'm good with all of them. I like them.
By the way, when we talk tomorrow on Tuesday's show, can we talk about this your new venture into the podcasting world of podcasting production?
Absolutely.
Is that an open subject for us to talk about?
It's another job that I'm adding for myself. Yeah, but I love it. I'm excited about it.
All right, so let's deliver the promise statement, and then we'll get on to the episode with Justin. We didn't do that yet, did we?
Not yet.
Okay, so the Nice Guys on Business promise statement, our goal, and I just want to let you know, Strickland, this is 3 for 3. I know it's only Monday, but we've recorded some of the other shows for this week.
Uh-huh.
I've hit it on the money and on the mark every time. You know why?
Because I didn't have to bring it up because you wrote it down?
Because I didn't write it down, but I have the tab, and it's actually, I learned something very valuable from Jeffrey Hazlett this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's got like 3 or 4 tabs that he always has open, and those are the things that he's working on like right now. Like he's got his prospect list, and he's got his probability of closing list, and he's got some active things that he has, and he actually leaves them open just in a small little corner of his screen. He shared a screen with me when we were having a little coaching call the other day. And so I've been doing that, and shit, it works.
What a great idea. You know, sometimes it's the simple things that help a lot.
It is the simple things. And this one's a very simple thing. It's just having a small screen. The only problem is when I go to open up a new window, the new window opens up like one of those little tiny windows. So I have to expand it. Maybe you could help me with it. No, you don't have an Apple product.
It's a Mac thing. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that.
You wouldn't understand that.
No.
The Nice Guys on Business promise statement. Our goal is to provide.
Maybe you could make an appointment at the Apple store and they could help you with it.
You know, that would be a very good idea. Let me get on my Apple iPhone, or maybe I could just do it on my iMac and make an appointment. I think you can do it online with them.
You don't have your iWatch, do you?
No. Should I get an iWatch? I'm not a watch wearer. I wasn't really. I'm not. That one doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, the iWatch is not taking off like they thought it would.
Does Yeah, go ahead.
That's a whole other topic. We probably shouldn't get off on that.
Will the iWatch explode like your phone?
Not my phone, another Samsung product. Just because I happen to have Samsung. And by the way, our Friday interview, and I have to point this out because there are so few that this happens, right?
Our past Friday episode? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Every goddamn interview we do, you ask, do you have an iPhone or something inferior? And inevitably, every guest giggles and then says, no, I have an iPhone. And I go, fuck, again, god damn it. But last week, it was Ryan Phelan, when you said, do you have an iPhone or something inferior? He said, he giggled and then he said, no, I actually have something superior. I have an Android phone. That was the best answer ever. I just hate that I had to wait like 4 months to hear it.
Yeah, well, once every 4 months. Okay, so there is another phone other than the iPhone, and it might be a Samsung. But, you know, okay, so Ryan was there, and he did have a good answer. So if you have not, Nice Guy Community, heard that, go back and listen. By the way, if you have not also recommended the show recently, please take a moment and go back and do that on Overcast. It's right behind the cover arches. Did I already do that on this episode?
No,
I can't remember.
Didn't. And by the way, I cut you off. You never actually got a chance to give the promise statement, even though you talked about how you had it right in front of you.
So our goal here on the Nice Guys on Business promise statement is to provide, and we are going to talk about goals tomorrow, our 2017 goals. Our goal here today, right now with the promise statement, is to provide the most entertaining podcast experience ever. We throw a little bit of education. We throw in a little bit of fun. We want it just to be of value to you and your life. So hold us to that standard. The best way to do that is to let us know what you think. At DJ Doug is my Twitter handle. Strix is at Nice Guy on Biz, and that is with a Z. Okay, so I think we're ready to do it. Shall we get to the interview?
Mr. Justin Gesso.
They told our next guest to follow the path, go to school, get a good job, work hard, and you'll succeed. And Justin Gesso did just that, and really wasn't happy. What he did decide to do, however, was to believe in himself, invest in himself, work towards a goal, and leave the grind behind. And he believes in it so much that he wrote a book that ranks on the top of the Amazon charts. Not an easy spot to achieve. Author, a great business guy, and definitely a friend of the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Welcome to our little old show, Justin Gesso.
Thank you, Doug. I really appreciate you having me.
This has been a long time coming. I'm glad the day finally got here. Not just for coming on the show, but for being in the community. Honestly, now, Justin, who do you relate to more, me or Strick? I mean, it's okay. You can tell us.
Yeah, right. I got to say you. I mean, that's listening to the show is something I've done off and on, and of course, I've read your book, and I got to say I resonate with a lot of your concepts. So no offense to Strick there, but that's the answer.
No, and it's quite okay. We can offend him.
All right, sounds good.
Even nice guys can offend people, you know. So let's start here. You've been accused of being a nice guy since you were little. I mean, to quote you, good news in being a nice guy that has never failed me. So why do you think that it's so that good, that nice guy, being a nice guy has never failed you? Because I know that it's never failed me. I mean, ultimately, it does come back to having me be victorious in whatever my endeavor is. But why do you think it's so for you?
I just think it's such a big picture thing. I mean, by pushing that out there, being a nice person in your day-to-day interactions and just making it a part of who you are, that ends up being the sort of environment you create for yourself. You end up naturally working with people who are nice and, on the level and going to come out and do the right thing. And not to say you don't need to protect yourself every once in a while from some situations, but I just find generally if I'm doing the right thing, people pick up on that and they treat me well, and I end up with the right sort of business partners, right sort of vendors, the right people come into my situation, and that's just so important. That's so key. The people is a huge factor. No matter how much technology can separate us, and we can spend all day in front of our computer. Really, at the end of the day, we're relying on people to buy what we're selling, to help us put together what we're selling. The whole ecosystem revolves around people, and being a nice guy I think tends to bring the nice folks into your life.
So many people have said to me, and they probably have said it to you too, because it sounds like, and genuinely, you are a nice guy. I've seen the posts that you've put out there. I've seen the words that have been said about you. I've watched you on video. There is no way that you can fake it, doing it the way that you've done it, and still seem to be so legit and genuine. Right. But they always tell me, very similar to, I'm sure, what they're telling you, is that, man, you must get taken advantage of a lot, or you must let a lot of people step on you, or how do you ever end up saying no to something because you're always saying yes as a nice guy? How do you respond when something or somebody says something like that about you and towards you?
Sure. I'm sure it's come up. I'm sure I've been taken advantage of, something like that, where I didn't realize it. I think I have fairly good ability to detect some of that in people as well that I'm interacting with, to where I might not be a person I'm going to work with or spend my time with or discuss ideas with, whatever it might be. So maybe I just sort of naturally stay out of those situations. But at the end of the day, even if I have lost a few or been taken advantage or could have gotten a better deal if I just haggled that much harder, things have averaged out totally fine and in my favor. So I won't really change what I'm doing. Just haven't been too worried about that aspect. And people ask that all the time, being taken advantage of. And that's the perfect phrase. And I just don't feel like that's an issue, to be honest.
You mentioned in some of the pregame that when we started talking, just discussing what we were going to talk about on the show, I try to do a very limited amount of that, only because I like the conversation to really evolve on the show. But you did make a pretty interesting point, and that is that most people that are in this space, trying to figure out what the next step is, they talk about what's going on internally, the self-talk that they have, the mindset that you get into. And I agree that is probably important, but it's not as important oftentimes as, or maybe as important as is the actual action part.
Sure.
And that's really what everybody likes to know. Well, what do I do? How do I do this? So before I get to some of there was a couple of questions that were posed on some of the mindset things. I want to talk about this step called action. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what you said is the mindset piece, and so many people are interested in that, and that comes up again and again. And that, I'm very excited about that. And, part of that is having a great attitude, is really understanding what you want from life so you can go get it. And I understand why that's exciting for people to spend that time sitting down and really focusing, figuring out what you want to do and making sure you're rallying up all your internal resources. Because if you don't do that sort of thing, no matter how smart and capable and resources you have, you're not gonna be able to pull it off. You have to have that foundation. But I think there's a lot more to it. So in my book, what I wanted to be cautious of was not over focusing on that area. So that's really section 1 of 3. And the second section is about your network, which, that's another thing I like about you in the show, is you guys talk about the people on the network side of things so much. And that's really what separated me, is once I started integrating with the right people, that's what allowed me to take off personally.
I always tell everybody, you can know everything in the world, but if you don't connect with the right people, you have nothing. You have to build your network. And as a matter of fact, when you wrote your book, I'm sure very similar to when I wrote my book, and I've seen it because I can watch you in action on social media and see how you interact. If you don't build your network as you're writing your book or building your book, you have nothing when you come to release your book.
That's exactly right. So that's a piece of it. Another piece is just learning what's possible, because I've, like you started out this show, I went through school, I think like most people, was told this is kind of the path you take. You just keep going to school, you get this good education, get your college degree, go out and get a job, work your way up, and you'll land a job with some nice benefits, and eventually you can get promoted and get a house with a white picket fence. And I think you kind of went down something a little similar. And then when I got there, I was like, man, I don't know if this is really what I want from life. It's what like everybody told me. So then I started. I can only do so much with my mind if I've been conditioned that way. So where the network is really interesting to me is once you start, I branched out from all the people who were kind of in my corporate mindset of coming up, and I started meeting with people who had gone out and started their own businesses or were off on their own or doing very interesting things.
Not even necessarily within the industry, or what was your industry? What were you doing?
I was in telecom.
Okay, so
banking, then telecom.
And not necessarily in telecom all over, or just in telecom? I'm just trying to get so the Nice Guy community can have an idea of who you are, who you were, and who you are, and then who was your network evolving in? What was it evolving into?
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I had moved up within the corporate world, was doing pretty well. I think by most measures, I was a success at a pretty young age, making, 6 figures, had a secure job, all that good stuff, had the health benefits, retirement plan, those sort of standard things. So then I started reaching out to people who were in different areas. Like a big person was a real estate investor. He's someone I went to college with, and he just kind of took a different path straight out of college. And so I reached out to him and figured out what he was doing. I realized my standard or bar for success was totally different than what his was. And what he was achieving was just on a totally different level. And so I started kind of branching out to folks like that. And that sort of changed the internal goals and different mindset things I wanted to do for myself, because I realized there was a heck of a lot more possible than what I was achieving. So
you started to believe into the dream. You were actually believing in the dream that somebody else had laid out for you, because that's what like the corporate world had said. Hey, get a good job, go to school, get a good job, and this 6-figure income that's where you're going to land. And by all measures, that was like, hey, compared to most people out there in the world, that was really successful. And then you meet all these other people, and they're like, it's not just about the money, it's about the time, and it's about the freedom, and it's about doing what you love to do. And that's kind of where this whole book, Leave the Grind Behind, I guess even got started.
Exactly. And, the number one thing that jumped out there was when I was working at this company, even if I continued to go up, I just realized at the end of the day, I'm spending all this time every week putting in hard work, and my smarts, everything I have to offer, and what that's really helping achieve is someone else's goal or the company's goals. And some of these other people I was talking to, they were working on stuff to help build their legacy, stuff they were interested in, what they were excited about. They were focused on their goals while also making money and having, just like you said, the time and flexibility and all that sort of stuff. And so I just really decided to sit down and set my goals accordingly and be real strategic about it and figure out exactly how I could be in that bucket, because I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't be. So,
all right. So then take us through the next step, which was, I guess, your second section of the book, is leaving the mindset behind for a moment. Because assume that everybody that you're dealing with in this audience has that dream. Now, they might not have a specific industry that they want. They just know, you have that itch that just says, I want to do my own thing, even if I don't know what my own thing is. I have a passion to do something entrepreneurial. Help me get there. Okay, so take me from there.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is I worked on. I sort of had an underlying value that if I'm going to do this, I don't want to sacrifice time with my family, because I could see that as an easy thing happening, whether I stayed at the corporate job and continued moving up the ladder. At that point, I'd be pretty much married to the company. Or if I left and did my own job, you hear it all the time that people spend all day, all night working on their business. And I don't want to do that either. So I figured out how to carve out first order business, figuring out how to carve out time in my day to continue working at my job, and then also plan this out on the side. And I think you mentioned that in the Facebook community as well, as you were able to do something pretty similar. So, I really took stock of how I was spending my time and money and got pretty ruthless with it. And so, was able to save some money on the side, free up time to work on this. And then in another big thing I did was, I realized, hey, if I'm on my own, I even if I have something to sell or whatever it is I'm doing, I need some skills I don't have now, like marketing, sales. Probably need to work with vendors. And so I really made it my mission to move around in my company a lot and take the job for a joyride while I had it. I figured I'd be here for another couple of years or so. Let me get the most possible I can out of it, fill my skill gaps.
Hey, Justin, and let me throw this in also, just so the Nice Guy community is aware of this, because I think we were both in that situation. I'm sure many that have left the corporate world behind it and taken their own journey have experienced this too. When he says taking it for a joyride, that is not to say that Justin, and I'm sure he didn't do it this way, just knowing Justin, you're not taking advantage of the company that you're working for. You're not just stealing their time so that you can build your own business. What you're doing is using the advantage of working at a full-time job, getting the benefits, getting the salary, getting the education from them, because there are many departments within an organization, whether it's marketing or accounting or sales or any department. If you can move around within an organization to learn some key traits, you're giving them your time, and in exchange for that, they're giving you experience and knowledge, and that is not stealing. That is really investing your time properly in an organization and not just spinning your wheels while you're waiting to leave that job. Now, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that. I like to make that really clear, because for me, I did all of that and I still felt like I give them everything I have.
That's 100%. I kind of said it better myself. And in fact, I felt like when I started doing that, I was making myself much more valuable to the company, and it was something they recognized too. Is now I'm going crazy trying to learn all this stuff and really deliver results for the company. And now that I have these skills, I'm able to grow their business in a way I wasn't before. So it was, while I was doing this, I want to be very clear. It was very beneficial to the company and the people I was working with. So it was done it, and I have a piece exactly on this in the book, saying you want to do it in a way that's mutually beneficial. And then the other interesting thing, like I didn't plan on it when I went in doing this, but what I realized as it was happening, and then right before I quit, is I became very marketable by doing that. So my risk of quitting my job, I thought, was super low. And a lot of people have a lot of fear of quitting. They're not going to be able to support their family, not going to be able to get a job, whatever it is. But I felt like if I quit and I totally screw this up, they'll have me back in a heartbeat, and I'll probably even be able to move into a higher position, or I can go work for another company. Now that I've built a lot of this up, I'm in way better position than I was before.
You had posted, I guess, I forget if it was through your LinkedIn page or one of your posts, something about, it was just a 60-second little snippet from Jim Carrey delivering a commencement speech to a graduating class, and he talks about fear being disguised as practicality, sometimes scaring us out of what we love to do, telling us that it'll never work, don't even try it. And
love that speech. It's
so amazing. If you have not, Nice Guy community, have a chance to do it. If for whatever reason I can't get a link in the show notes, just type in, I don't know, Jim Carrey commencement speech, 60 seconds. It's an amazing series of quotes, one at a time, that Jim Carrey actually talks about. I'd love to talk about that for a second. How you knew that it was just fear, in leaving your job and getting to your full-time endeavor of doing your own thing. How did you know that it wasn't just bullshit in a cloak?
That's a good question. So,
I mean, we all try to figure that out, right? I think that even Sean Carpenter, who was one of the guys that was asking, what's the hardest part about betting on yourself? And a lot of that is the fear that you have in getting through it. So how do you determine if it's actual fear, or if it's a valid fear, or if it's something just cloaked and disguised?
That's a tough question to answer, but I can say what it was for me is, of course I was scared of quitting, and to get to Sean's question a little bit, I still have a wife and young kid, and she was not working. She was, something we wanted to do, have her home to help raise the kid before we went to school and stuff like that. So we literally we didn't have her salary to support me if I screwed up something like this. I had a lot on the line, and that was super scary as I was going through these thoughts initially. But the further I went along, the more I got with this network of people, the more I was talking to people, I was like, man, I'm scared I'm leaving all this on the table. I'm seeing what other people are doing. I don't feel like they have some crazy skill set, or they're not that much smarter than me, or whatever it is. I feel like they're just regular people, just like me, and they're accomplishing this. So I was scared of leaving that all on the table. And then when I got to the point of realizing, my worst case scenario isn't that I go bankrupt and lose my house and everything. Worst case scenario is I have to go back to the corporate world, which is just right where I am right now. So it wasn't that big a deal.
Right.
So I actually got scared of staying where I was. And just as a funny story, I would look around in my office and I'd see people who had been in their job for that same job for they've been sitting in the same chair for maybe 5 years or 10 years or even longer.
Yeah.
That almost made me, have you ever had that claustrophobic feeling? It gave me that. And so I started getting the reverse fear of what most people say.
What happens if you stay?
Yeah. So people read the book and they just say they're really scared. They're fear of the finances. They're scared they won't be a success. They're scared they're going to work all those long hours. And it just got to be the opposite to me as I worked through everything.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the book is called Leave the Grind Behind. I think you got something like 35 or 36 really positive reviews on Amazon. It was a #1 hit, and I think you're right now, you're hovering in that #2 spot. How horrible is that for you? In your head, you're like, damn, I was at #1 forever. I know that feeling, right. So I know that it's how do I get it back to #1? How do I get it back to #1? Hey, maybe this will do it. Maybe we'll put you back over the top.
Hey, that would be great. That'd be great.
So, share some. Okay, so we talked about steps 1 and 2. 1 being the mindset, 2 being a little bit more action and getting involved. You said there was 3 parts to your book, though. Can you share anything that's from the? Am I putting you on the spot by asking you to share something from the 3rd section of your book?
No, that'd be awesome, Doug. That's great. And so, 3rd part is about taking action. So I think a lot of books kind of stop at this conceptual idea of here's all these great things you could be doing, and maybe how to think about it. But then actually putting the rubber to the road is something I really wanted to address as well. And so this comes from. Have you ever read Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect?
I haven't, but I'm ready for you to tell me about it because it sounds interesting just knowing how compound interest works. I'm ready for the compound effect.
So you got to read it. That was such a good book for me. And basically what it says is by taking even just little actions or doing something daily toward a goal, has that same exact effect as compound interest does on your money. It can have it on achieving your goal, and so it's pretty amazing as long as you're taking some small actions consistently. Where if you can imagine doing something every day for a year, you're going to be in some place pretty different at the end of that year. And so that's a kind of high level version of this, and it's. So this 3rd chapter is really about, how do you maximize your current situation? If you're looking, are you maybe an entrepreneur, but you're not really doing what you want? I mean, I know a lot of people who have started their own job and they feel like they're stuck in the grind more than they did before. Maybe they don't like what they've gotten themselves into, or they feel like they're so integral and part of the business and they're working 80 hours a week and they can't step away. And that's that needs to be addressed too. Or if you're working at your corporate job. And so really what this talks about is looking critically at those actions you are taking, carving out the right amount of time. And then when it comes to the money piece, there's a lot in here about making money the right way, and so avoiding some of the traps. Like if you go out and become a consultant, just charging an hourly fee for your time is pretty easy to get trapped back in your own self-created grind. So This is, we talk a lot about how to structure things in a more scalable manner, a more passive manner, so you're setting yourself up to be able to continuously add these different income streams, and they pile up, and pretty soon you're in a great spot, and that's the sort of thing that allowed me I had writing a book on my bucket list, and so I figured it's something I do kind of way down the line. But just a few years after leaving my corporate job and having myself set up pretty well, I found myself with this extra time, and I thought, hey, why don't I go back and write the book and get it out there? And so it's great to be able to do some of that stuff, and that's what this action piece is about. Is about consistently taking action, but doing it in a smart, strategic way.
Small incremental ways too. It's smart and strategic. Yes. Small incremental, easy little steps. And before you know it, like you said, it compounds and it snowballs into this great thing.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of those books. I read it at the right time in my life, and boy, did it make a difference. So I'll recommend that out to everybody here as well.
So help for a moment. What's the hardest part? And this is one part of Sean's question that he asked on the community, and I thought it was a great question. And it really does relate. It really does. You can look at this from almost any position where you're in and figure, okay, what do I have to do next? What's the hardest part on betting on yourself? How do you know that it's a good investment? I mean, you're always a good investment, but how do you know when it's what's the hardest part about it though?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part was certainly the fear aspect and overcoming that, flipping my mind around like I discussed. So, I felt like I had the capabilities, and again, getting around with the right network, I didn't feel like it took something real extraordinary to pull some of this stuff off. It just took hey, this is the goal I'm going to set for myself. This is what I'm going to do. And so that betting on myself wasn't too big a concern. Like I said, I felt like the downside was super low. And if I'm, another way I can look at this is I think a lot of us get a job because we need money. We need something to fulfill that, and then we kind of design our life around our job, whatever it is. Maybe we have to travel, stuff like that. And so I just took a step back and thought, what if I kind of turned that on its head and wrote out the life I wanted, set some values and goals based on that, and then placed work into that picture. And that's what I would consider betting on myself. Is I'm saying this is the reality I want to define for myself. I know other people are doing it, so let me set out and figure out how to do that.
It's kind of like Mike Michalowicz wrote a book, and he was a guest on the show a while back, called Profit First, and he talks about, instead of looking at expenses and seeing what you have left over for profit, you take profit first and see what you have left over for expenses.
Yes,
it's just a different way of thinking about the same issue.
Exactly, and I listened to that podcast too, and yeah, I mean, he's a great guy, and it is. He just like he flipped around the that standard accounting equation. That's sort of the principle applied here. What about you? When you bet on yourself, what was your hardest part?
I think just what you said. I think fear, and what's amazing about it is totally about your head and the space that your head is in. Now, the practicality is that you still have to pay your bills. I mean, I can't tell you how long I rode along with. I think it was in the early 90s. I was working a full-time job. I graduated college in '86, so I had a full-time job from 1986 until the mid 90s. But I started DJing more or less thinking that it was going to become my full-time career in 91. So from 91 to 97 or 98, I had both jobs at the same time. And, it took a long time, and 6 or 7 years before I finally said, I'm making the same working one day a week, my Saturdays, as I was working 40 hours a week in the mortgage business. And I said, I got to figure out a way how I can not feel like I'm leaving this mortgage business and the income behind. So I just stepped it up. I mean, I would tell you that a few years I really was head down, working hard and doing both as hard as I possibly could. I hired an agent. I treated it like it was a full-time job. And so it was not a long time, but I feel like 7 years is still, relatively speaking, it's a long period of time to have two things going at the same time.
Sure.
But it ended up paying off.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to get into this rapid fire round of Q&A if we could. And so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. We don't prep anybody with the questions because we don't want anybody to know. So at some point, everybody's going to start to know the questions because they're going to start listening to the show more often. But I haven't prepped you with any of these questions, and I just want you to give me your 20-second answer on each one of them. I'm going to try my best not to step on you as you talk, and I'm just going to back it up. So you ready for the rapid fire?
Fire away.
All right, here we go. So be relatable. What do you suck at?
What do I suck at a lot of stuff. You want that in 20 seconds? That's not going to happen.
That's good.
I suck at the details. I like to be a bigger picture guy, and so if I get stuck doing the same thing day in and day out, or there's any repetition, I fall apart. So that's something I constantly have to work on.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. Be transparent. How did you pay your bills when you first got going?
Sure. So I did save money on the side. Fortunately, I did not have to touch it. I described this in the book in much, much more detail, but one of the things I did is I found through my network, mentors, people who were building their business, but they had something they sucked at, just like you asked me. And so it was something maybe I had a strength in and I could help them out. And so they paid me a small bit. It was enough to get by. And the best part about that is I got to sit next to them and, see how they were running their business. So they would pay me to fill in a little gap, and that was enough to get by.
Excellent. All right. Be confident. What do you do as an entrepreneur that's as good as it gets?
As good as it gets. Boy, I have to say I'm working on the marketing and that data-driven marketing is one of the better things I do right now.
Be humble. What experts did you need to call upon to make shit happen when shit wasn't happening?
I've got a huge Rolodex of those people, and one of the things I did is move halfway across the state to sit next to someone who was doing really well in his office, so I could ask those sort of questions. And that guy is Mark Ferguson of investformore.com, which you guys can go look him up.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's very cool. Be realistic. Where are you going to be in 90 days, and how far into the future can you actually see?
Okay, so 90 days, I think that's coming up on my birthday. I would love to be at a beach, I'll tell you what, because it's going to be cold here in Colorado. So what was the second part of the question?
How far into the future can you actually see?
Yeah, so I'm probably now about a year out.
Excellent. So that's very challenging. I can get to about 90 days. I can forecast 90 days where I'm going to be. Very hard for me. Now, I have some ideas about the things that I would like to happen, but until I get usually about 3 months away from that, I don't know how any of them are going to work out. I mean, that's just where I am. Maybe that's part of not being a visionary, but being more of a let's just be a worker bee and get it done.
Right. Well, that's very true. I mean, I can't say I know all the steps there, but I mean, every morning I write out a to-do list of the handful of things I need to get done that day, and at the top of that list, I write down my top 3 big goals, which are like year-long horizons. So I'm thinking about that every single day.
Are you a good and so you've gone through the rapid fire stuff? I'm just asking some other stuff that's just coming to mind as I'm thinking about it now.
Sure.
As you're writing like your to-do list for the day, are you like I like to check things off that list kind of person? I mean, so do you write like 10 things out and you start checking them off as you go through them? Does that give you your feeling of accomplishment for the day?
Yeah, and where that came from is the time management. So when I figured I was going to had to plan for this and get everything lined up while I was still working a full-time job and then had a young family. The to-do list was like the little golden ticket or whatever you want to call it that came out of that. I was just shocked before I turned on my computer, before I got sucked into doing everything else, if I sat down and wrote down like 10 items that, I felt if I accomplished these things by the end of the day, I would feel like I really did something. So I started doing that. And, when I first started writing down that list, I'm like, God, there's no way I'm going to get this stuff done today. But then, before I knew it, I'd get the list done, knock it out by 11 a.m. And then so I had this whole afternoon.
Yeah, and you're on to the next stuff. And it's so great because as I look back, and that probably speaks to the book, what was it called? Compound Effect or whatever the name of that book is that you were just mentioning before.
Right. I don't think that was particularly in there, but that's But yeah,
it's the same idea. I mean, in my mind, it's the same idea. It's like those small actionable steps. Yeah, you could go through and feel like you're spinning your wheels all day, but if you actually kept track of the stuff that you do, you would see that you're accomplishing a huge amount, and you do get a lot of stuff done. Just write out your to-do list. It is a very, very easy thing, and it's completely a very duplicatable thing for you to share with others and do on your own as well. Do you have time? As I know we're a little bit over the time that we had discussed when we did the pre-interview, but do you have a moment just for a personal question or two?
Sure.
All right. Okay, you sounded a little hesitant about that.
Well, your 20-second questions were more complicated than I was expecting. So,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, good. All right, so do you have your cell phone? Yeah, well, you do. You said you have your cell phone somewhere near you. So do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
I have an Android phone, and I love it. I used to be with an iPhone, and I'm not going back either.
Oh wow, what was wrong with the iPhone, Strickland? So you might relate to Strick a little bit more than me then. Now that I'm hearing you.
Okay, sounds good.
What was wrong with the iPhone?
Oh, I don't know. I just
you just don't.
I think like some of that marketing that people love, and you probably love it. So I don't know. Maybe you're just gonna like scratch this interview if I keep talking.
No, we're all good. I'm not gonna take any offense. I don't Apple. I do not represent their product. I just seem to be a lover of their stuff. All right, so go to your picture app. Tell me what is the last photo that you took.
All right, so we're recording this probably before it goes live, and last night was Halloween, so I've got a picture of last one, me and my son dressed up for Halloween.
Nice. What were you guys dressed up as?
He was at that age, he wanted to do something a little scary, so we just did some scary face paint and black clothes.
Nice.
And I think scared all his friends.
How old are your kids? How old are your kids?
I just have one boy, and he's 7.
7 years old. Boy, before you know it, he's going to college. Get that 529 plan all set up there.
I know. Tell me about it. That's what I'm scared of.
Yeah, that's the truth. You want to know something to be scared of? I can be scared of that. Go to your texting app. Tell me the last text message you sent or received.
Oh, boy. All right, let's see here.
Sorry, sent and received. I said or.
Sent and received. Okay. All right, so my wife said, "Can you get paint stir sticks when you swap paint?" And I said, sure. So we just got a new rental on Friday, and she's kind of taking up the management of this one. So the story is our kids going back. He's at school more, so she has time, and she was thinking of going back, and she used to be like an HR manager and was thinking of doing something like that. But now she's like, boy, I see what you're doing. I don't think I can go to a regular job.
Totally right. Yeah. Put her to work for the family business. Now that's the best feeling ever, is when you can do that. And then you guys can like meet for Tuesdays at lunch or whatever it is that you want to do. It's so much better. So much better.
So she's going to take managing this rental, getting it fixed up, ready to go, and we'll see where that goes.
Good for her. Put her to work and let her. And well, she's putting you to work is actually what it is. So right. Nicely done. Any final words of wisdom you want to impart to our nice guy community that's out there about the book, or anything else that you have to say?
A couple things. Just I would like to continue interacting out on that Nice Guys community. So if anybody, I did a little video before the show asking if you guys had questions, and then likewise after this goes out, I'll post a little something. I'd love to get any follow-up questions. We can just bang those out on online there. And then also, if you want to just learn a little more about the book, you can go out to the website, which is grindbehindbook.com. And then if you go to /quiz, there's a free quiz. You don't have to sign up or anything like that. And it kind of gives you an idea of, I have something in my mind, a picture of whether you're a cog or what I call a grinder. You're working on your own thing, and you can go out, take that quiz, and it'll give you an idea what the book's about, the sort of variables I look at, and I think it'd be a pretty insightful way to see what's going on in your life, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're dying to get out of your corporate job and do something cool, and that's why you're listening in today.
Oh, that is totally cool. So I love the fact that you have a little test that people can take to see if it's time for them to leave the grind behind. So thank you so much, Justin, for being a guest on the show, and we appreciate you. We'll make sure that we put all of your information in the link in the show notes, and give our listeners in the Nice Guy community all information about how to get in touch with you as well. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doug.
Our pleasure. Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Justin Gesso for being on the show today. All of his information in the show notes about how to get his book, how to take advantage of all the stuff that he has to offer. Thanks again, Justin. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. That's their story, and they're sticking to it.